Thank you for joining us on this journey as we navigate the murky waters of trafficking. For this final episode, we'll take a global perspective. How do the decisions of drug users in Europe affect other humans on the other side of the globe? And what is the impact of drug trafficking on the earth itself?
Let's talk about cocaine. In 2021, an estimated 2,304 metric tons of these drugs was produced. Most of the world's cocaine is produced in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. In these countries, a major concern is the effect of cocaine production on agricultural lands. Fertile soil could be used for growing coffee, cocoa, and bananas.
However, these crops, despite their economic and nutritional importance, are never as lucrative as coca plants. Coca plants are used to produce cocaine, a major product in the international drug trade. The COVID-19 pandemic, when bars and nightclubs were shut, caused a temporary drop in demand and consumption of cocaine. It was only a brief amount of time that producers struggled to get their drugs to consumers. When looking at the long-term picture, coca leaf cultivation is increasing. According to the Global Cocaine Report 2023, coca bush cultivation doubled between 2013 and 2017. It hit a peak in 2018 and saw another sharp increase in 2021.
This shift in agricultural priorities has far-reaching implications, not just for the local economy, but also for food security and biodiversity. Cultivation of the coca plant has been linked to the deforestation in Colombian rainforests. These rainforests belong to the richest biodiversity hotspots in the world. Now, these biodiversity hotspots are being cleared to make space for coca plantations. And not just that, the processes of producing and transporting drugs are also causing significant harm to the environment, affecting tropical forests and both freshwater and estuary ecosystems.
And what we saw in Europe, drug crime being interlinked with other types of crime, which we discussed in our last episode, also counts for the production countries. Narco-trafficking routes are often used for other criminal activities as well, such as wildlife and weapons trafficking. On top of that, drug trafficking leads to extreme violence in production countries, but also in transit countries. For example, Central America, which is a transit point for drugs moving from South America to the US and Europe, is one of the most violent regions in the world.
Indeed. For example, Honduras. Based on its homicide rates, Honduras is amongst the most violent countries of the world. It is estimated that a significant portion of this country's homicides are linked to drug trafficking.
Apart from environmental issues and violence, drug trafficking also destabilizes regions and states. The illicit drug trade strengthens criminal networks, which can corrupt governments, undermine law enforcement, and destabilize entire regions. A recent example of the impact of undermining and destabilizing violence related to drug trafficking is the murder on Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio. Villavicencio was known for his fight against corruption and shot dead in the street in Ecuador's capital Quito in 2023. These criminal networks don't just exist on a local or regional level. There's a growing trend of collaborations between organized crime groups in Europe and crime groups operating from outside the EU. Whereas in other markets, different parties see each other as competition, in drug trafficking, it is increasingly common for organized crime groups and other involved parties to collaborate. This creates a truly global issue that requires international cooperation and a comprehensive approach.
And it is not just organized crime groups who are involved. Drug trade also provides financial resources for terrorist groups. These groups include both larger, more traditional terrorist groups, but also local terrorist cells.
Now, so much for the larger structures behind drug trafficking. But what about the individuals involved? For example, the smugglers transporting drugs across the ocean. 80% of the world's cocaine is transported by sea. Another part is brought from South America into Europe by plane. According to the Global Cocaine Report 2023, planes used for air trafficking can be divided into two categories. First, scheduled air transport, such as passenger and cargo flights, being the first category, and general aviation, including commercial and private flights, is the second category. As we learned earlier in this series, criminal exploitation is very common in drug trafficking. This is also the case for mules carrying drugs into Europe by passenger plane. Some do it for the money, others to repay debt or under threat. Even if money is the main motivation for individual mules, you may wonder how much of a free choice these mules have if they come from a background of extreme poverty and limited opportunities.
These live drug mules travel by plane and clear customs and security checks while carrying the drugs they are smuggling. Of course, there is always the risk of getting caught. Criminal organizations are always looking to lower these risks, even if this means using the most gruesome methods. Besides live drug mules, customs agents at Schiphol Airport also reported finding illegal drugs smuggled in baby corpses under the guise of body repatriation. Yes, unfortunately, you heard this right. The bodies of deceased babies have been opened, filled with drugs, and sent to Europe by plane to later be collected by members of the criminal organization. As we said earlier, there is no such thing as a victimless crime, and in the case of international trafficking, unfortunately, there are many victims, as young as they may be.
It is our hope that by shedding light on these issues, we can contribute to a better understanding and to more effective solutions. I'm Vivian.
And my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. This was the final episode of this series. If you have any questions, remarks, or would like to talk to us about what you have heard, feel free to get in touch. You can find us on LinkedIn as MARIT-D.